make a living. Crypto is on the rise, making that dough in the crypto paradigm. Watching it go, buying low, selling high. Riding the wave, I'm here to stay, living in the digital age. No banks, no fees, just decentralized. It's crypto paradise. Ooh. No banks, no fees.
Can't hear your microphone, Crypto Armor. He's going to pop right back in and then do his intro here. Till then, I'm going to get this shared on Twitter, get it shared on Discord, Patreon. See what's going on. Him and that damn microphone and computer. Need altcoins to actually outperform Bitcoin so we can get some new hardware, huh? Let's see here. Let me go on YouTube and get that link so I can share it to Discord and Patreon. Give it the old like there. Copy it. Head over to Patreon. Everyone live with CP. Solo. Until Ian fixes his computer. Let's get that back up. Head over to patreon.com/learncrypto. Your one-stop shop for crypto and stock technical analysis, fundamental analysis, and news. Live with CP. Put that in there.
What's going on, bud? I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Riverside, it's rugging us. Just like the market's rugging us. My goodness. So sorry about that, ladies and gents. Happy to be here, guys. I'm sure Nick did a little preamble for you, but we got some great stories to cover today. Binance FUD fallout continues. We'll get into that one. I think it's a little bit of a nothing burger, but we will cover that story for you guys, of course. Perhaps partially the reason why we're seeing some red in the markets. People are suggesting that Binance is insolvent. BS. Total BS. What else do we got today? Oh, the big story. We looked at some data. Alts may be outperforming Bitcoin here. Is this a temporary blip or something we can look forward to continuing? I don't know. I'm a little skeptical about it. A project we invested in a while ago, Quants, is launching in a day or two, so we'll cover that one, I think, in a bit more detail because I'm bullish on it. Let's hope the market doesn't screw us over too much. I was hoping, we wake up today, start the show, some green, $77,000, $78,000 Bitcoin. Seems like we gave it all up in the last few hours. I don't know if you've taken a look at the charts yet, but back at $75,000 Bitcoin. Not fun to see.
And we mentioned that, and it was like, oh shit, last time I looked, Bitcoin was 77, and I thought there was just going to be like another show of, okay, we're still holding the lows, we're doing our thing, and we are still holding the lows, but yeah, like $75,000 Bitcoin, I pulled that up here. Nothing looking good. No news is saving it. Silver and gold have bounced a bit. Remember those big 44% drawdowns on silver in 4 days? I made a post that said, hey, we're at $78 silver. Probably time for a bounce and consolidation, or back into the 80s here. That isn't helping Bitcoin today, though, because Bitcoin's $75,124. Still off the capitulation low of yesterday, just over 73,000. But, I mean, nothing really to brag about here. Nothing looks great. You did have a bullish divergence on the capitulation between February 2nd and February 3rd with the RSI, which is where we got the relief rally to 77.5. You were super oversold on the technometer. We got the relief rally, but now we are giving it up. We need to hold this capitulation to start the grind, just like we did back here. Remember where we went from 80,000 to as high as 98,000? We need to start that right here, right now. Start grinding higher, and hopefully this is more of a V-shaped recovery rather than the long, prolonged rally of 18,000 we just saw last month. And, yeah, I mean, what else do you want to say about that? Not too much, really, just 5-6% on the day. Ethereum down 1.4% to $2,200. Still holding the same capitulation low that we had on Bitcoin. We did buy right around these levels, so it's not the end of the world. but it doesn't help the rest of our portfolio. It doesn't help the hodl bags. It only helps the trading bag in which we sold and just bought back a little cheaper, looking for things to turn around. Same oversold tech, same bullish divergence on the RSI, and same ugly looking chart.
Hodl bag is looking wrecked, no doubt about it. Obviously, V-shaped recovery would be very welcome right now. I don't know what catalyst would cause it. Maybe just the whales, the market makers decide to stop selling. Well, who knows? I think there's a potential of a long, drawn-out consolidation. Of course, further downside too is a possibility. The concern I have right now is the chart looking the way it is, sentiment the way it is. 4-year cyclists are winning right now. And if you have more of them, more people who are maybe on the fence, they're like, oh, maybe 4-year cycle's a thing. Maybe I'm kind of leaning the 5-year cycle. I'm hodling on here. At some point, those people on the fence are going to be like, well, definitely 4-year cycle's a thing now. It's, look at the chart, look at this, that, the other. So I'm going to sell now too.
Yeah, starting to see that within the private group. I had about 2 or 3 people yesterday asking me, okay, we're here at 77. When do we cave into the 4-year cycle as a reality? When should I try to get cute, sell, and try to buy back cheaper? They're not looking to exit and never come back, but they are looking, all right, if we're in a 4-year cycle and Bitcoin's going to 40, why wouldn't I want to sell here at 70 and try to buy back nearly double my Bitcoin position at $40,000? So that is crossing the mind of people who are on the fence or who have only been playing with the trading bag on the 4-year cycle, now looking to play with their hodl bag on the 4-year cycle as well.
The good news, so if that were to occur, the good news, and here's the reality of this market. Little guy with $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, even $50,000 in Bitcoin, I don't think they really make much of a dent. They don't really affect the market direction. It's the market makers, it's the whales, it's the exchanges, it's the institutional players. They have much more of an impact. Now, obviously, in the aggregate, if every single retail guy decided to sell now, we would see a huge dump. I'm not suggesting otherwise. But for the most part, the market is more controlled by the big players. And so it's more they that you have to be concerned about, I guess, about capitulating at these levels. But it seems like a lot of whale, from what I can see from the data and some information I'm seeing on X, seems like got a decent amount of whales bidding the price right now. And so maybe we end up just consolidating here for a while up until we get some reason for a pump. That to me feels like the more likely outcome than further downside or a V-shaped recovery. But who knows? No, short-term price predictions are very challenging. I'm sure you guys have come about.
And another reason maybe people are putting a bid in here is Bitcoin is now at the most oversold since the FTX crash, and that was at 76,000. Right now we're at 75,000, so we're even lower than this picture just from a few hours ago. And this is the most oversold the RSI has been on the weekly chart since the FTX crash, which that led to the bear market, and that led to a major bottom in Bitcoin, in which it did nearly a 10x, did like an 8x off those lows. So are we going to replicate that? Do we need this long consolidation this time around? The answer would be, we just came out of a multi-month consolidation and broke to the downside. You don't need another long consolidation if this is, in fact, the same cycle within a cycle. If this is a 5-year cycle or 6-year cycle and not a 4-year, you don't need this long consolidation. Remember, this was after a normal 4-year cycle, FTX collapse, and then you had this consolidation and build up before the next bull market really began. If we're just still in this same bull market, then you already had this 3-month consolidation, broke to the downside. Now you can actually do V-shaped recovery and start the parabolic euphoria phase of the rally like we saw in gold and silver. So we'll see if that's where we're at. Nonetheless, very oversold on Bitcoin, so it's hard to tell you, all right, 4-year cyclist wins, sell now and hope we can buy cheaper, when you might, at least in the short term, see relief rallies that are going to really test your stamina, test your strength, and have you wondering why you sold the dip since you held all the way to this point.
Yeah, look, that's why you have the hodl bag, and that's why you have a trading bag. Like, if you feel a little bit risk averse, you're scared, you're concerned for your cycle, whatever the case may be, you need cash now. Okay, so who is anyone to tell you what to do with your own money? But last thing you want is to completely get out of the market, and then, of course, then you'll see a face-ripping rally. Because that's how it always works, right? Like, as soon as you press that sell button, we're going to go higher. You hodl on, you're gonna go lower. It's just how the matrix works, I guess. So have a hodl bag, have a trade bag, do what's right for you. I'm hodling. I always hodl. I treat my Bitcoin and my Ethereum investment like I treat my S&P 500 investment. Maybe that's foolish. I don't know. We'll see in 10 years. It's worked out for the previous 10 years. I'll tell you that much. I'll let you know in 10 years from now whether it was a smart play or not. And you continue to make income in other ways. And try not to sell your investments. That's maybe I'm old school, maybe I'm weird. I still speculate on the low cap alts. Maybe we'll get to that in the later part of the show. I have some Solana. I'm not happy about it right now, though.
Yeah, Solana underperforming here, Bitcoin and Ethereum for quite a while, ever since it broke this parabolic formation we had here, showing you had the parabolic break. It had a retest, which is bearish, and then came down and got absolutely crushed. Remember, Solana was outperforming like BNB for a while, forming this parabola that even Bitcoin and Ethereum did not see. Once it failed, it got ugly, and it is underperforming today, down below $100 again at $93.86. We don't have a huge Solana bag. We haven't played much in Solana trenches, but it does make the trenches very hard when this is the price performance of everything you are pegged to in your liquidity. Now, talking about pegging to Solana and liquidity here below $100, is it a smart move if Solana does a V-shaped recovery? Is it a bad move because Solana is going to zero? I don't know. Only time will tell. But Quants, KVAI, TGE is happening tomorrow. No more postponing it. Oh, we need good market conditions. We need this. We need that. They see Solana below 100. They have conviction that the low is near. They want to tie their liquidity to cheap Solana. And while Bitcoin dropped 14% in the last week, the Quants Volts posted a plus 8.4% return for those who invested in those trading vaults. What do you think's going on here with Quants? Do you think it's a smart move? And what do you like about this project that's launching tomorrow?
We talk to a lot of early stage projects. That's basically our bread and butter business, helping to launch projects, whether through Crypto Paradise, whether through pools. At some point, if you've been building for years, if investors invested in your company years ago, if on day one of the token launch you will already have token utility, product is there, community is there, everything is lined up, at some point you just have to pull that band-aid off. I don't think you can just postpone indefinitely because market conditions aren't ideal. So I'm happy they're finally launching. It's been interesting. I've been monitoring the trenches at least to some degree. And you see some outperformance there at times. There have been new projects launching, even on Solana, that have done incredibly well in the past few weeks. There's one called Mystic DAO, which fortunately we weren't able to get into in time, that did like 20 times or something. It's done extremely well. So, there's opportunity. You can still outperform if you have the right alchemy of elements that come together around the time of the launch. Would it be better to see Solana start pumping again? Of course it would. But I'm glad these guys are launching. They're absolutely ready. And then you launch a low market cap, get the sellers out, get any pre-sellers out who weren't believing in the token and the project, and then maybe you start to pump things after that when the markets improve. Who knows?
Yeah, definitely a very interesting token. I like the fact that it performed well. In the doldrums of the market conditions, it outperformed by 22.4% or something like that, which is really good to see. So if you're looking for a place to put your hodl bags to try to earn income off a trading strategy, their vaults historically have done very well. And now they've been running these vaults for a year or two. So you can look at historical back data, choose your risk tolerance, put some funds to work in there. When the overall market isn't great for us gem hunters, for us alpha producers, for us even doing DeFi yield, this is a great opportunity to put that last little bit of portfolio to work and try to make some gains, or at least it has been the past couple years in the ups and the downs and the volatiles and the liquidation crisis. KVAI and the Quants platform have done very well. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited that they're about to launch tomorrow. That is because the SurfDAO members and the Crypto Paradise individuals have invested in the KVAI presale in both like the seed round or the private round and the public round. We do have access to the founder here, so we can learn more about these vaults and maybe put some funds to work and try to make some gains back after watching this red for months on end. And, another new, good, solid project coming to the marketplace. They talked to a lot of exchanges. They talked to a lot of big people, and they kind of sparsed out what their strategy was going to be. And now it's time to put that strategy to work and see how they do here.
Yes, very smart founder. Shout out to Michael. We should have him back on the show here at some point. We've interviewed him a couple times. Apparently, Crypto Paradise DAO members will have access to the vaults even if they don't hold the token. So some kind of benefit for us. What's been cool about them is the decisions they've made, I think, were made with the investor's best interest in mind. Now, is that guaranteed to work out and hit 10x? No, of course not. Nothing's guaranteed, especially in this market. But there were times when they talked about, okay, we could list on this big exchange. I won't name names. Biggest exchange, has approached us, and here's the proposal from them. They want a lot of tokens. They want to lock up private investors for 6 months. And ultimately, they chose not to go with that deal because they didn't want to screw over the private sale investors, aka us. So, happy they're launching. I think they made good decisions. They got a good product. Market conditions are a question. Everybody knows that. But if we can get a little bit of a relief rally here in the market, I think quants can do very well over the long term. So we'll be rooting for them.
I'm sure we'll be talking about quants and their token more in the future, but keep an eye out for that launch. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow in the live show, depending on when it actually launches. And we'll see what that performance looks like in 1 week, 1 month, 1 year from now, as they will be pairing their liquidity with Solana at very cheap Solana prices relative to what Solana was just a couple months ago.
Yeah, maybe we'll talk about Solana for a sec too, because you talked about it falling below 100 and it's shown a lot of weakness recently. And I'm not surprised at all to see the weakness, because let's just think about the point of Solana, the narrative around Solana. Highly, highly retail driven. Highly correlated to the activity in the meme coin trenches. Its main product, really, the main DApp on the chain, is pumped on fun, which in bear markets you can't expect to do terribly well, although there actually still is a decent amount of volume on pump fun, believe it or not. But nonetheless, if it's retail driven, if that's where most of the utility, the transaction volume, et cetera, comes from, you can't expect to do well. And the second point I'll make on Solana, it's a newer chain relative to, say, Ethereum. Its inflation rate is far higher as a result of that. Something like 4 to 5% annual inflation, whereas Ethereum under 1. So things to think about. Obviously, smaller market cap. I'm sure we'll probably outperform ETH during that glorious moment of alt season, if and when alt season should ever return. But right now, I'm not surprised to see it underperforming Bitcoin, ETH, etc.
Yeah, and their biggest, pump fund being their biggest DApp has been a net extractor of billions of dollars of value out of Solana as well. Don't forget about that. Selling Solana, selling stablecoins, pulling them out of the market, both pre-raise and post-raise. So that doesn't help anything either. Also, they did get the Trump token on their network, but what they did what I say they shouldn't do. They chose to pair with the stablecoin rather than the underlying Solana. So as people were wanting to buy Trump, what do they got to do? The routing system within DeFi utilizes a method in which it was selling the Solana, buying the stablecoin, and then buying the Trump, which puts downward pressure on the overall network. So as Trump token was pumping, instead of helping Solana, it was actually hurting Solana. And then when Trump token dumped, it made it even worse. So that was a whole disaster there, from pump fund extracting, pump fund raising funds and extracting, to their biggest token launch on their network this year, choosing to pair with stablecoins and not Solana itself. Big missteps across the board, and that's why we're here with Solana back below $100 and underperforming even the doldrums of Bitcoin and Ethereum. Doesn't matter, though. The institution says, screw it. All you peasants, we're shaking you out. We're continuing to do our thing, and we're going to make even more money because you guys are so blinded by the bread candles. BlackRock, Fidelity, and JP Morgan are building tokenized money market funds on none other than Ethereum. These issuers manage tens of trillions of dollars in assets. On-chain finance is still early. Again, not just stablecoins now. Now tokenized money markets are all going on and choosing Ethereum network. Will price ever catch up? Or will we be the early evangelists that were so right all along and Ethereum never goes above 5,000 again?
I refuse to believe that scenario. I don't believe that stories like this, institutional adoption, results in short-term price action. It just doesn't. Long term, absolutely. It, of course, builds credibility around the chain. The more institutions adopt it, the more likely others are. The more likely, if DATs ever come back in vogue, they'll choose Ethereum over some other chain. So overall, very positive. We'll see how much transactions result out of this. Probably a lot, frankly, over time. I mean, if you hear the masters of the universe, Larry Finks of the world, talk about kind of where finance as an industry is heading, he'll tell you a lot of it's going directly onto the blockchain. They're not hiding that from anybody. It saves them money. It saves them time. It saves them costs. And they can maybe pass on the users, etc. So for them, it makes all the sense in the world. Does it translate directly into price performance? I think probably yes over time, not in the short term. But I'm very pleased to see this. You know, if you're looking at an L1, what L1 should I invest in? How can you look at anything other than Ethereum right now with any sort of seriousness? That to me is the bigger point, that I think Ethereum has really. We'll look back and say, okay, Ethereum definitely won in terms of a smart contract platform. But yeah, $5,000 ETH, man, that's going to take probably some QE, the Clarity Act, who knows, crypto strategic reserve. Who knows what we'll need at this point to get it past 5,000. But I'm happy to see the progress being made on the back end.
Yeah, and really, that's the only way we get an alt season, $5,000 ETH. But it does appear that, at least in the short term, I know this is a zoomed-in chart, others are outperforming Bitcoin here. Alts are holding better than Bitcoin on this dip. Even though Ethereum has been underperforming, there is some outliers in the trenches. There is some mid-caps that are outperforming, leading to the ratio of total market capitalization, including the top 10 to Bitcoin, outperforming those assets. Again, this is a zoomed-in chart, but it is nice to see some form of green candles somewhere in your portfolio, some kind of hopium. And this is altcoins actually having a little bit of outperformance. And, hopefully this rolls over to some of the small caps like Quants and some of these other ones that are going to be launching Chimp Token with the Pools IDO. So maybe we can get some wins, some pats on the back again, get the portfolio slowly growing up. If you need to cash out crypto for real world stuff, maybe it's off the gains of Quants, Chimp, and other newly launched tokens that are coming soon.
Yeah, man, I think newly launched tokens are still an area of potential outperformance. Of course, high risk. We know that. And if they launch at way too high of FDVs, we've seen some of these really big VC-backed projects. There was one that recently launched. The name's escaping me right now. It's already down like 40%, like in a day from the ICO, from the launch price. Just wait, they raised like $100 million. Way too much sell pressure in those kind of projects. But you look at a Quants, for example, they raised like $2 million, I think less actually, because they completely removed their public sale round. There are no public sale investors at all in that project, so no sell pressure from them. The earlier rounds, private rounds, I think you get 5% of your tokens at the time of the launch. I mean, it's nothing, which obviously has good and bad elements to it, but greatly reduces the sell pressure. So, and it's launching at like sub $1 million market cap. So, projects like that still have, I think, the token economics to do very well, at least in the near term. We'll see long term how anything does. But I'm very pleased to see the others doing well. I mean, it certainly hasn't shown up necessarily in my portfolio yet. But I guess the question in my mind is like, how long can this state of affairs last where alts are outperforming Bitcoin when Bitcoin is doing this bad? Could this last for months, or are we looking like a week?
That's very true. You wouldn't expect the outperformance when Bitcoin is doing this bad. Now, you could argue if we're in a 5-year cycle that Bitcoin gets some strength going, new all-time highs, and then just kind of flounders, consolidates, whatever, and then we have that alt season finally. But we'll see. Again, that is excluding the top 10. So that is the no XRP, no BNB, no Solana, no Ethereum, no stablecoin versus Bitcoin, which is kind of that mid-cap tier. And those ones have been showing some strength. That's probably on the back of some of the privacy coins like Monero and ZEC have done pretty well. some of these low cap new projects that are launching with decent FTVs, and we've had a couple meme coin runners that did get into the hundreds of millions of dollars, which does put them in the top 200 on CoinGecko and current market cap, which does affect that chart that we're just looking at. So we'll see if it wants to continue. Is there any crypto natives that are going to buy up the Bitcoin and Ethereum dip to save this and maybe prompt retail to hold on or buy more? Well, we do know that the Binance Seifu Fund trying to hold face. I don't care if they're criminals trying to hold face, whatever. I'll take any buys at this point at 75,000. I don't care. I don't care who buys this shit. I don't even.
Jeffrey
care.
Epstein.
Yeah,
come on in, buddy.
Kamala, you want to buy Bitcoin? I don't care. Go ahead and do it. I'll root it on. They deployed another $100 million. Remember, they had $1 billion to spend just on Bitcoin in 30 days. It's only been about 4 days. They've already bought $100 million worth, and now they have bought a second round of $100 million of stable coins, putting it directly into Bitcoin. Hasn't showed up on the chart. Maybe that was them running it up from 75 or the capitulation yesterday up to 77,000, and now they're not buying anymore, so the market is selling off a little bit. But they do have another $800 million in cash to put into Bitcoin over the next 26 days. Hopefully, at the same time, MicroStrategy's buying. Hopefully, the Japanese MetaPlanet, they were looking to raise $173 million. Hopefully, that gets done and they can buy. And maybe retail and maybe the overall market conditions, liquidity crisis will slow down. We'll get an injection of liquidity to find that V-shaped recovery and get momentum and morale back. Because you know it's bad when me and you are even making jokes. The private group members are asking me, okay, maybe the 4-year cyclists are right. We have another 50% downturn to go. Okay, do I need to sell off this altcoin to pay a car payment? You know, things are good in the market right now, and I'll take buys from anywhere and everyone, even Binance, after they potentially caused this on October 10th.
Things are definitely not good. Not good, not good. I'm still staying positive because, I mean, I think we've lived through way worse, in my opinion. I know there's a lot of people on X suggesting this is the worst correction and the worst crash and the worst bear market or whatever we're calling this ever. I firmly disagree with that, having lived through the FTX crash. That was a lot worse. Let me tell you, Bitcoin at 16,000 felt much worse than Bitcoin at 75. Not to mention the biggest exchange going down, or was second biggest, the criminal, investigation that followed, Biden trying to regulate the industry out of existence. I've mentioned that many, many times. So that was far worse than this moment in time. Happy to see Binance buying the $1 billion. Someone smarter than me needs to explain how is it that you have Binance buying, Sailor. I mean, a lot of institutions have continued to buy throughout.
Big sums of money, too.
The downtrend, right? Not necessarily all happened yesterday or tomorrow or whatever, but like since 125, we've been going down, and a lot of buys are still coming in from these big guys. Price still go down. Is this just because there isn't that much liquidity? It's pretty easy to manipulate the price up and down. These guys are buying OTC. They're buying off the miners directly. It's the market makers pushing the price down. Retail selling. Whales are coming out. Like, how do you have this much in institutionals coming in, including now this Binance, and yet you see continued downward pressure on the price? What's your take?
Yeah, that is interesting because there has been some big buys, and we haven't been seeing in the news dormant wallet sells. Like, we haven't seen those since we were up in the hundreds. Remember, when we got stuck between 98,000 to 126, that's when you were seeing all these dormant wallets selling $1 billion, $5 billion, $9 billion, and people were amazed. Holy cow, yes, we dropped from 100 to 80, but we're back to 106, we're back to 116, we're at 126, even in the face of all these whale sellers. On this whole down trip, you haven't been really seeing those on your feed. There hasn't been these big whales that are selling into the downtrend. So it is interesting to see price collapsing while Michael Saylor still bought, Strategy's bought, Cardone put 10 million in here, 10 million in there, Binance is buying 100 million. But I guess it goes to say, who was selling in the doldrums? If Binance and market makers were to blame for 1010, how much did they sell? Like, yes, Binance has bought back 200 million, but did they sell 2 billion? I don't know. But interesting to see. And the other reason it's interesting to see is because gold and silver have been going up. Stocks have been holding firm. So it's just like liquidity is being drained out of the crypto markets to chase the actual runners. And maybe that is just a bunch of small people doing that. That's driving retail out and price down. Because remember, in crypto, even if you have 5,000, yes, you don't directly impact the price, but you're one more marketing agent that's gone. If you're sell for 5,000 and you're announcing bear market for Bitcoin, buy gold and silver, whether you have 100 followers, 1,000, 10,000, 100,000, that's one less buyer, and that's one more community gone and chasing a different asset. We saw it even here. Hexbull was bearish at 80,000, looking for 40. We're at 75. He rotated all of his cryptos, what he said, into silver spot at $95 an ounce, and now silver spot's at 88. So now where do you go from here? But that was a big guy. I mean, he had a lot of money, and he sold completely out of his crypto looking for the Bitcoin bear market to go into place and went totally into precious metals. So how long does it take for him to recapitalize liquidity from precious metals and bring it back to crypto? I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, because I do think a lot of the retail, smaller guys, even the bigger whales who have sold, let's say there's a lot of people selling even in October saying, okay, this is the top of the cycle, this and that, I'm selling, and then since then. I think a lot of them do eventually come back into the market. The question is at what level and at what time. If you believe in the 4-year cycle, you probably won't see them come back until sometime next year, early next year. You know what I mean? We have a 8 or 9 or 12 months of crypto winter, which is again what the 4-year cycle would suggest is about to happen, or already is happening. They'll come back sometime early next year, but I think a lot of them will come back. The second point I'll make is, price action is it's never determined by just one thing. So I think, yes, Binance 1010 had a lot to do with it. 4-year cycle selling had a lot to do with it. Whales selling out, by the way, I have still seen reports of big early whales selling. It's not as much as it was. Maybe it's not making the headline news. But if you scroll far enough on the X feed, I'm not that busy right now, so I guess I'm scrolling a lot, and I see... you still see reports of this, early 2013 whale sold $5,000 Bitcoin, he's out, the shit like that. So that's still happening. The good news, I think a lot of them do end up coming back, but they ain't coming back now if you believe in the 4-year cycle. You're going to have to wait a little while longer.
Yeah, and we lost the chat box. Let me run through these real quick. AJ West, good morning, let's go. Martin Max King saying solo hello. We got Rima in the house saying yo guys. Smash that like, share, and subscribe button from Wyckoff Stock Market Institute. AJ West said, bought the dip again this morning, so time to dump. AJ, send me over some of that money you got there, that dry powder. I need some of it, all right? Hindsight will be 2020. Can't wait. When you kill it and Bitcoin goes to 244,000 and Ethereum to 10,000, don't forget us over here buying the dip, watching us live, all right? We got Miko Chapo with another new name, Lullaby8. This guy, man of mystery, he says good morning. Oh, we do got Hexbull in the house saying, bros, give me a shout out. I still think Bitcoin goes to lower lows and all about the bear market, but instead of his 40K target for the bear market, he changed it to 45K, and instead of 45K target, anyways, I'm updating my bottom call to the 65K range.
Wow.
We'll go up from there. Tip Tom Lee. Oh my God. So the bears are even changing their timelines from 40K to 45K, now 65K, which is still another $10,000 dip, would still be shitty, but that would be right around the 69 to 70K top that we had in the previous cycle, which would make a lot of sense for major support at those levels. We'll see if we actually get there. I sure hope not. Moonmutt saying good morning. Hexbull saying, come on, guys, say Hexbull. We just did. We don't have the chat box.
Hex Bear. Or is he bullish now? He's bullish now again.
Ian had technical difficulties, so when he drops off and comes back on, we lose the live chat, at least on the main screen here. And then lastly, we got Martin Max King saying, funny thing is that we can still make money on crypto with new projects like Pools or Chimp X, and I'll add KVAI. We'll see what happens with those. Yeah, we need some wins. We need to get those juices flowing again. We need to make some profits, have some overflow, and get activity going again in the markets, in Crypto Paradise, in SurfDAO, Pulse Chain, whatever it may be.
Shout out to Hexbull. Glad to see you back, buddy. I thought you were going to be gone for a year. I mean, right? Like, if it's the crypto winter and 4-year cycle and $40,000 Bitcoin, I mean, it's going to take at least a year before people like that re-enter the market. But I guess he's maybe coming around to the notion that interesting discussion here. 4-year cycle, we can all be right. 4-year cycle can be dead, but we can still be in a bear market. But the bear market can be shorter than if it was the 4-year cycle, and we can be ripping and roaring back towards all-time highs in 3 or 4 month period. If you look at how this cycle has gone since 16,000 to 126 now to where we are, that's kind of how it's went. You've had bearish periods for months at a time. 3 or 4 or 5 times. I mean, I remember, dude, we were doing the
2017,
stream.
it was bloody September. And that parabolic run from 800 to 20,000. I remember I first got in 800,000, 5,000, 6,000, whatever. September, we're, oh my God. And it just was blood for 30 days straight. Panic everywhere. And and then we found a bottom and ran to $20,000.
That's what I'm saying. What do you mean 20,000? Well, I don't remember. What do you mean 20,000? 120,000? I'm not sure.
No, this was back in like 2017. One of those.
Oh, sure. No, but I'm not even talking about them. That was before the institutions were here, ETF buyers were here. You had much more volatility. I'm talking about from 2022 basically to now. From 16,000 to 126K and now to where we're at. We've had bearish periods, 4 or 5 of them. They've lasted for months at a time. Then you've had bullish periods. They've also lasted for months at a time. But nothing's lasted for like year. It's been short and it's been tighter time frames, which has really been, it's actually been frustrating because you haven't had enough juice to have an alt season during any of the bullish times.
And if you're
really, I mean,
go to a new all-time high, it's like, yuck.
Yeah, it's like it runs for like 3 months, then dumps for 3 or 4 months. And so if that's going to continue, then we are at month 5 of the dump. Are we ready for an uptrend? I hope so. I certainly hope so. Fingers crossed. But I know Binance is still grinding away. Let's talk a little bit about Binance here. You can talk about this story, and then I do want to get into the FUD I'm seeing around. They're insolvent. Get your money off. It's going, they stole everything.
Yeah, I mean, Binance, we just talked about deploying Seifu funds. They've deployed $200 million out of the billion so far. They got another 26 days to deploy $800 million into Bitcoin buys. And we've been talking about how retail is non-existent and nobody wants to come to this market when there's red candles. But it does seem that on BSC just crossed 2 billion active addresses, years of on-chain activity compounded to this milestone. And although this doesn't mean it's new users, it does mean that current users are still active, creating more wallets, creating more LPs, creating more projects, and still staying active and involved on BSC, even though there's red candles everywhere to be found.
I'm really encouraged to see this. Couple points I'll make. Yeah, give that a like. Why not, right? Like, I think we've come to a point in the maturation of this asset class where really, let's say 3 to 4 chains really matter, and then you have some outliers that may ultimately catch a bid and do very well. But right now, Ethereum, Solana, and BNB, to me, are the clear winners presently. You guys know we're bullish on Pulse Chain. It's got a lot of work to do. That's a high-risk, high-reward scenario relying on Richard Hart doing some of the right things. Base Chain tried to be a thing for a while. I don't think it really picked up much in the way of traction. And then you have a slew of other random L1s and L2s that just I don't think are going anywhere. At some point, you have the network effects that are very hard to beat. And BNB has network effects as much as you may hate Binance and CZ. I mean, look at the data here. And I will say now that we've sort of acquired the pools project, I'm seeing there's a lot of volume, on BNB relative to some other chains. So it does translate into volume, I think, these numbers. Chimpex, by the way, launching on BNB. But in any event, 3 chains, I think, have really solidified themselves in terms of like altcoins and degen stuff. BNB is one of them. Shout out to those guys. By the way, I don't know if you saw the FUD. It was more yesterday. I haven't seen it much today. People out there saying that Binance is the next FTX. They got no money. It's all going to zero. Get your money off the exchange, blah, blah, blah. First of all, get your money off the exchange is always good advice. We can just say that irrespective of Binance's financial situation. Get your money off the exchange, period. But not because Binance doesn't have any money to cover its withdrawals. There's a funny thing about the blockchain. You can see everything. It's transparent. You can go and look. Oh, hey, Binance address got 200 million, 500 billion. They have more reserves than every other exchange, guys. I think Cointelegraph or maybe it was DeFi Llama did a proof of reserves post going through every major exchange. Binance is number one by orders of magnitude in terms of money that it has set aside for, covering withdrawals and so on. There's a lot. Look, when the market is down and bad as it is, there's a lot of people that are sitting in shorts. They've shorted the market. They are financially incentivized to try to drive it lower. And so when you see FUD, when you see Satoshi is Jeffrey Epstein or Jeffrey Epstein's Satoshi, finances is going to zero because none of your money's there. Use some critical thinking, guys. Use some critical thinking. A lot of it is paid FUD. It's called for what it is. Binance is going to be fine. But yeah, get your money off the exchange.
And I guess the last topic we got to talk about is gold. And Peter Schiff himself, finally, from brown hair to white hair, finally having some gains in his portfolio and in his funds, with gold going on this generational run here after decades of sideways. Just in, Peter Schiff says China is too smart to care about Bitcoin. They're buying gold. And in the short term, that is true. China has been buying, one of the biggest buyers of gold, trying to sell U.S. treasuries to hurt the U.S. dollar and the U.S. economy to then buy gold. But, they do still have a lot of Bitcoin. And if they didn't care about Bitcoin, they wouldn't make it legal, then illegal, then legal, then illegal, then mine it, then not mine it. So we do know that Peter Schiff is almost as good as Jim Cramer as an inverse indicator. Has Peter Schiff gloated and bloated too many times now for gold to continue its run? And will Bitcoin start outperforming gold? We shall see. It's going to be hard in the face of nation states such as China buying up a ton of gold. But how much is enough? We talked about yesterday that $16 billion fraud that's going on in China, where people were pouring in their money, $16 billion, to get gold and never got their money back and never got their gold, at least since a couple days ago. So we'll see how this all plays out. We'll see if Peter Schiff finally gets that major top moment for him like we've seen on the chart. We had a 22% drop in 4 days on gold, and now we look like we had a relief rally and maybe some consolidation. This is exactly what we were looking for, exactly what we saw here when Bitcoin finally had another run, and exactly what we saw over here. This is what we want to see out of gold. A major top like we had in April and a long multi-month consolidation. Go look at the chart of Bitcoin here. It did many multiples during this span here, and this is what we want to see for risk on assets, for Pokemon cards, for Bitcoin and ETH. Some kind of action like this out of gold and silver, and maybe the start of it is here. Remember, we were calling for a major sell-off after the parabola breaks. It broke. That is much deeper and quicker than we thought it would be. Relief rally now and rolling over a bit. Maybe we get some sideways chop to lower. That's what we want to see. Same applies to silver. 44% dip in 4 days. It's $78. I said probably time for a bottom and a relief rally. It's now up to $89. Let's see where this B wave wants to go before it probably inevitably consolidates or rolls over once again. Peter Schiff, I mean, hey, decades and decades of just hanging on, getting AUM, doing absolutely nothing in terms of performance for his fund, but I know this year's got to feel good for him.
Here's an idea for Peter Schiff. How about stop being a mouthpiece for the Communist Party in China, bro?
That's very true.
How about that? Are you an American, or are you a member of the Communist Chinese Party? This is a pathetic tweet from him. The reason why China is buying all the gold is because they're trying to crush the U.S. dollar. This is not even a surprise. Yeah. This is not even an unknown thing. Every single analyst you go on mainstream media, this is what is going on here. They were trying to kill the dollar earlier with the formation of BRICS or whatever that was. Couldn't get it done. Trying to convince the world to make the yuan this kind of the reserve currency for the world. That didn't work. Now they saw an opportunity because, let's just be honest, our debt is terrible here in the U.S. Why would you want to invest in treasuries? That's a great point to make. They saw an opportunity here. Let's try to get everyone back on the gold standard. This is a regime change that's unfolding before our very eyes, but it's not because they're smart. It's because they want to hurt the dollar. They want to hurt the United States. So if everyone who's watching the show in the U.S., this is not something to root for. I get it. If your gold bag is higher, I guess you should be happy about it. But this is, I don't think, really a good trend that we want to see. Peter Schiff, you know better than that, man.
Yeah, and it's not
shaking
just
my
here
head.
in the United States. It's really any country that utilizes USD as kind of their primary source of income and or spending power. And that extends out to many of South America's country, that extends out to Puerto Rico, that extends out to many places around the world where even when you travel there, USD is treated as gold. Like you don't need their fiat currency. People will take USD with a smile knowing that it has the spending power and that's what they use in their country as well. So yeah, not a good thing. I think the US Treasury holding of China is over an 18-year low, meaning they've simply just been selling treasuries and rotating it into gold for this whole move. And we'll see if they ran out of treasuries or what's going to happen there. But yeah, 18-year low of treasuries. Tried BRICS and failed. They were early in Bitcoin, but never really got behind it. Kept banning it, playing games with it, and now they've seemingly gone head over heels into gold. They still hold their Bitcoin or don't hold their Bitcoin. We don't know. There was rumors that they sold their 198,000 Bitcoin over the duration of this bull market, but I have not seen any finite proof of that either. So does China even hold Bitcoin anymore? I'm not too sure, but they definitely don't hold very many U.S. treasuries.
Well, they can't control and monitor Bitcoin to the same extent they can gold. So they're never going to choose Bitcoin over gold. That's just completely antithetical to the control that they want to exert over their society. You can't really have a currency that's decentralized and self-sovereign if you want to just rule absolutely over your population. So that was never going to be a thing. The reason why, by the way, I want to connect this to a story we haven't talked about today. The Clarity Act. Clarity Act is still held up. Why I want to get passed? Oh my God, this is so frustrating. And it is frustrating. The big holdup is this interest on these stable coins. The banks are against it. We know that. But the Trump administration, they're actually on the side of crypto on this one, as I understand it. That's what the reporting that's been coming out. And why? Why is that? Why do they want to make stable coins a thing? Well, it's to combat what China's doing. They're trying to make the US dollar still continue as the global reserve fiat currency. And stablecoins, we know now, after the Stablecoin Act, have to be backed by treasuries and dollars. So this helps the stablecoins help the United States government. They're now deeply involved in these negotiations, as I understand it. The banks are still like holding firm on their position of no interest on stablecoins, which is kind of stupid because you can already get interest on stablecoins on Coinbase, and we haven't seen a flight. It's not like our parents, regular fucking people on the street who don't give a shit about crypto, don't understand it at all. They're all rushing to get a Coinbase account to buy USDC and earn 5%. It hasn't happened yet. Why is it going to happen? Nothing will change if the rules. The rule is already you can already get interest and the banks are fine. So just keep it as it is, and I'm sure they'll still be fine. Hopefully they can get this shit done.
Yep, Clarity Act, you need to get it done by the end of Q1 2026 in my estimation, and we still have a little less than 2 months to get that done. It did pass the agriculture vote 12-11. All 12 of Republicans said yes. All 11 Democrats said no. So Democrats still hate on Bitcoin and crypto. They don't want you to have your privacy anymore. They don't want you to have monetary freedom, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll see what's going on with the Senate and House votes and see if we can get that passed through. We know that agriculture voted yes. We know that Trump will sign it into existence. It's just that middle ground that we're trying to get done. And it's kind of interesting because the Republican does have the majority in the House and the Senate. So I don't know the exact votes that are needed within those things, but the Republican do have the edge as long as everybody's on the right side of the aisle when it comes to Bitcoin.
My understanding is they're pushing, and the White House is pushing to get this done by end of February. We'll see if we can get it done. Apparently, the crypto companies are willing to negotiate and compromise on the stablecoin interest, but the banks are not negotiating.
Banks are being banks.
Banks are being banks, and so who ends up blinking first, so to speak. The good thing is now that the shutdown is over, the government shutdown ended yesterday. By the way, if you guys ever want to just have a good chuckle, a little entertainment for yourself, watch a Trump Oval Office sort of press conference. Dude is hilarious. I mean, he cracks me up every time. In any event, that's done now. And so the main a legislative priority, as I understand it on the Republican side, is this bill. This is the main thing they're interested in now. This is where the focus is from a domestic policy standpoint.
Yeah, and the focus makes more sense than ever with, the rumors of China going fully into gold and selling all U.S. treasuries. This is kind of the counterattack back against China, really embracing this Bitcoin strategic reserve, putting United States on, the Bitcoin standard, the gold standard, getting these precious metals, getting these minerals, and really stockpiling and solidifying the value of the U.S. country and U.S. assets to make sure that the dollar remains relevant globally. So, good timing.
Yeah, I mean, I think if the U.S. makes another big push around Personal Clarity Act, obviously get it done. They're already doing that. If they start talking about the strategic reserve again and making that a priority and proposing budget neutral ways to buy more, sell some gold. Here's an idea.
How crazy would that be if they're the ones up there selling at 5,500 and cause the capitulation, and they come out, Trump's like, oh, so 2 trillion gold, paying off debt, giving out gold checks.
I wouldn't be surprised, man. We'll see. I don't know. There's probably reasons they won't do that, but there are ways. I mean, there are ways. They just have to make it a priority. Talk about this more. If Trump is as corrupt as the Democrats say he is, and it's just like a crypto grifter, he just, the only reason he's in the presidency is to make money off of crypto. Well, now's the time to pump our bags, man, because we're on life support out here, Donald Trump. If you're really trying to make a couple billion on crypto, now's the time to show your true colors. I think the reality is that he doesn't actually care that much about crypto. His sons maybe more so. He's caring about the U.S. dollar, national security, bigger picture questions. He's already so damn rich, he's not trying to make a couple billion off this stuff. So, I mean, he'll do right by crypto, but he ain't going to do something crazy. And this notion that he's, like, grifting everyone, and that's the whole point of his presidency. I mean, that's the dumbest Democratic talking point I've heard in a long time. But in any event, if that is true, Trump, it's time. It's time to pull a rabbit out of your hat and do something crazy like sell gold to buy Bitcoin.
Well, we've covered a lot of news. Silver chart, gold chart, Ethereum, Solana, Bitcoin. Make sure to watch the replay if you missed it. We talked about KVAI token is launching tomorrow, Quants, something that we invested in. Also, if you were in the Surf DAO, even if you don't hold the token, you can get into the vaults. While Bitcoin went down 14%, the vaults went up 8.4%. That is 22.4% outperformance with your stagnant portfolio. So make sure to check that out. You need 200,000 Surf or more to get access to that without having to buy any KVAI tokens after launch. But you still might want to buy some of those KVAI tokens for some other benefits and or outperformance in the market. Let's see what happens. They're going to be on Solana at tying liquidity to Sol, and Sol price is very cheap. So if there is any kind of recovery, V-shape or otherwise, that will help their token out as well. And then, of course, we'll be talking more about the Chimp IDO over on Pools, with them looking like they're going to launch on February 9th. We talked more details about that yesterday, so watch yesterday's live show. Other than that, slowly inching into more alpha, even though the market hasn't looked great. Let's see if the macros, the liquidity, the interest rates, the new Fed chair, is any of this finally going to give us green again after the red candles caused by October 10th? Binance themselves still has $800 million to dump into Bitcoin over the next 26 days. Well, let's see what that can do.
Binance needs to do right by us too, and they need to fat finger an $800 million buy.
And then be like, we got another billion too coming over the 30 days. Bitcoin.
Imagine, now that would have to move the market if they just bought off the exchanges $800 million in a day. You'd think that. I wonder how have they been buying them, because they already did 100 million, they did another 100 million. How do we know how they bought that?
I'm not sure, but people have been sharing on-chain wallets, so it's like maybe it's OTC, but it's seemingly on-chain because people are tracking it on-chain and being like, oh, here's the $107 million buy of Bitcoin. So where's that coming from? You would hope that with CZ going to prison, with the FTX debacle, it isn't Fugazi, IOU, Bitcoin, and it is coming from somewhere into a more secure Seifu fund wallet that seemingly wants to hold it for an extended period of time.
No, you see it in the wallet. That we know. The only question is, where do they buy it? My guess is mostly OTC desks. I don't know, directly from the miners. I don't think these big players, they don't really go onto the market like us regular Joes. Go on to Coinbase and pay that Coinbase premium. Like, that's not, Binance isn't playing that game. So
It would be nice if they're willing to do that, though. That would be funny. They're not going to, but it'd be funny if they put like 200 million on Binance, 200 million on Coinbase, 100 million on Kraken, 100 million on KuCoin, and they're like, all right, guys, we have a meeting today. 3, 2, 1, fat finger on every single exchange. What?
if I were running Binance, that's what I would do. That's what I would do. Do right by the degens. Let's get a God candle going. Let's get a $10,000 candle. Let's just fucking wreck the bears. Get everyone faked out. Oh my God, it's all back. And then they
Last thing before I gotta hop out of here and move on. A little meme, a little hopium. The McRib is coming back in April. Historically, Bitcoin has more than doubled after the McRib returns. Don't fade the McRib, and you don't need to wait till April in the McRib for green candles. You can see that normally there was at least 1 to 2 months of green candles before the McRib return, and then a double up in Bitcoin price. Could this mean that Bitcoin is back into $100,000 territory? McRib comes in April, new Fed chair in May, and we go to new all-time highs like we have historically? That would be pretty nice. That would be a $200,000 Bitcoin on the back of purely the McRib trade.
The McRib is back, baby. Let's go. I'm actually so hyped for this, man. It really works. Look at this. Well, I mean, look at this. The proof is in the chart, guy. Someone should send this to Benjamin Cowan. He's a chart guy, right?
Yeah, screw all your charts, Benjamin. This is it.
This is a chart. I'm saying this is a chart, is it not? This is a chart. I'm looking at a chart, Benjamin. This is it, man. Look at the causation. McRib equals Bitcoin pump. It's happened 4 times in the past, therefore it must happen again.
Hexbull, you were right in saying that Bitcoin is going to go below 80. We're sitting here at 75, but it looks like we're about to turn green in February and March, and then have the McRib alt season coming. So maybe you should take your win, selling in the 80s, and buy back here at 75, because I don't know if we're going to get to that 40, that 45, or even $65,000 Bitcoin.
Not with McRib coming back. And if it does, we'll all just have to, if Hexbull's right, I guess we'll all just have to work at McDonald's and start serving McRibs instead.
There's gonna be no jobs to have. No jobs to have. Everybody's applying to McDonald's with their new benefit package.
All the Web3 degens are already front run that one for us. Can't even get a job at McDonald's, ladies and gentlemen. That's how bad this 5-year altcoin winter has been, and that's really what it's been. 5 years of underperformance on altcoins. So it's a miracle we're still here. It's a miracle we still got a smile on our face. But hey, guess you've been in the space long enough. You live through it, and you know you're gonna fight another day. So we're all gonna be fine, ladies and gentlemen. McRib or not, we are in good shape. So hang in there, folks. We'll be back tomorrow with another stream, and until then, see you on the beach.
Peace.